Hi, this is Tech coming directly to you through the power of the internet via the YouTube video sharing platform. But anyways, if you didn't notice, I threw up a quick goofball video because I was gonna set something up like this, but the system I was gonna use needed to update, and then when it updated, it didn't want to work. So that was my PlayStation 3. So what I did, I pulled out the Wii. I didn't pull out the Wii U, but I got my Wii U right here. I got my awesome Wii U. This thing is going to be a collector's item someday. All you fools who do not have a Wii U, it's going to be really bad for you in a few years. These things are going to be valuable. Valuable. They're going to be like Dreamcasts, but good. But anyways, I already watched this once before. Turn down the volume. And I'm gonna like Yoshi, Mickey, Kazume. This is first and foremost. This little intro is just all nice and cute. It don't really care for some of the. It's a nice intro, but long. I'm like padding for the video to catch my video. Okay, the first announcement is Wario Ware. And this is all cool right here. This is interesting. WarioWare games have always been quite fun to play. The PlayStation Vita had its own equivalent, and when WarioWare was quite popular, there was actually quite a few of these quirky games, but never quite got to the same level as WarioWare. Now, the whole introduction is just this one long section of classic WarioWare games and a whole bunch of other fun stuff and characters, and I like WarioWare. I like these types of games, but I'm not like super psyched about these games. But hey, it's WarioWare Gold coming out August 3rd, which is interesting enough, which is on the other side of where I predicted most of these games would be going. And this is a Nintendo 3DS section of the play. Now they are on to Dylan's. Dylan's game. I completely forget the name off the top of my head because I'm literally talking to a camera, and it's kind of hard to mentally keep track of what they're saying and come up with commentary at the same time. Now, it's nice that they throw in the Mii's and animalize them. It's a fun looking game. Dylan, I'm quite sure Dylan, the armadillo, is quite actually inspired by one of the origin stories of Sonic the Hedgehog when Sega was originally trying to come up with Sonic the Hedgehog. They actually considered a armadillo first. That is one bit. Now they're on to Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey. This is nice. It is always nice to get more of these Mario RPG games. Wonderful stories, everything and all. Updated graphics all around. It's kind of interesting that where it's going with this. There's one or two noteworthy games, but I actually watched this once before, and one of the mental notes was that there's actually fewer 3DS games than are originally predicted. Uh, and they're spread out more all over the place. Like this is available 2019. This is like next year. And then we got Detective Pikachu. This is just weird as fudge. I think someone at Nintendo was trying to screw with people. Was it like didn't they actually get Danny DeVito to play the voice or some other character? This is that's just that's one of the weirdest moments right there. That was anything but quick. By the way, it will be available March 23rd, the Amiibo. And I do believe the video as well. But anyways, there's just this. There's a bunch of really goofy stuff here. But anyways, yeah, I'm kind of a little tired of this. Okay, we're on to the remake for Luigi's Mansion for the Nintendo 3DS. This is actually rather interesting because the Nintendo GameCube, which this game was originally released for, was originally intended to include 3D features in it. It was compatible with 3D TVs and all kinds of fun stuff. So it's interesting that they eventually got around to re-release. Yet again, this is another re-release, and this is definitely, and as I said before, one of the re-releases is literally going to be coming out next year, and there's fewer games than my previous prediction. So the way it's starting to truly look from this Nintendo Direct is that the Nintendo 3DS is pretty much at the end of its road. The release date that's it for the Nintendo 3DS games, and there's hardly anything, and half of them are remakes. That's literally the worst thing about that. Yeah. A bunch of them are remakes. And and they're spread out all over the year and into next year. I do have to say, I have to come to the point is that this is clearly a situation where it is the end of the Nintendo 3DS. People have been talking about the end of the Nintendo 3DS, and I'm pretty much saying it looks like it is the end of the Nintendo 3DS. And on to the next thing after I'm done with this, and the news of Nintendo shutting down the Street Pass repeaters in Japan only further cements that this is the final years of the 3DS. The 3DS is basically, there's going to be a few games this year, a few good games this year, and there'll be a few good games going into next year. But in the case of the 3DS, from next year on, it's pretty much done for. Now on to Kirby Star Allies. I'm actually interested in this game. I've always been a big fan of Kirby games. It's just that fun, cutesy, quirky art style made by HAL Laboratory. It's quite essentially a simple game that when you really want to dig into it, you could truly find some really cool things here and there in the corners. If you're a completionist, it'll take you hours. Well, yeah, it'll take hours. However, as far as just getting to the end of this main story, it's not going to be that difficult. Kirby games are just great. You had a long day at work, you go home, you play around of Kirby. By the way, Kirby All-Star Allies is coming out on March 16th. And the demo is out now. March 16th is next week. I will probably talk a bit more about Kirby Star Allies. And then we're on to Okami HD. And yet again, it's a pretty game and all. And it was originally developed by Clover Studio, which was made of a group of designers, programmers, and engineers from Capcom. And they often worked on, prior to Okami, the Legend of Zelda Four Swords games for the Nintendo, for the Game Boy Advance and the Nintendo GameCube, and yeah. So they had experience in Legend of Zelda games. They went and made their own Legend of Zelda game in their own fun style, based on Japanese mythology, and the game is said to be available this summer, which should probably land right around E3 because Nintendo's not going to go much further past that. But yet again, we've already had that situation where Nintendo, they already did one or two video games from late this year and next year, but that was in the case of the Nintendo 3DS, which is when Nintendo basically does that. Half of their games are outside the 6 months and into next year. By the way, Sony does that all the time. People are like, "Oh my god!" Oh. When Sony does that, people don't pay attention. Sony ponies are just gonna eat it up, and not too many people pay attention to that, and they still award Sony all the prizes. This is an adulation. However, Nintendo tends to naturally just stick to the next 6 months. 3 to 6 months. In the case of the 3DS, we had that serious situation where at the beginning of this Nintendo Direct, all the games, and they were very few of them showcased, were spread out across this entire year and into next year. So that is not a good sign for the 3DS. Right here, we're on Sushi Strikers, the Way of Sushido. Clearly trying to Japanese up Japanese culture and concepts. It's like really anime-y. You can only do so much of that. There's just this is a Japanese game, by the way. This actually has already come out in Japan, and they're showcasing seeing multiplayer, which is always a fun little thing. But there, it's going to be coming out June 8th. It's also coming out for the Nintendo 3DS as well. It was a Switch and a 3DS, so you include Switch and 3DS. That's good news. Then we have is now news update on Octopath Traveler, which I have had multiple people in my own personal circle play the demo, and they enjoy it. They're interested by it. They might even want to get it. I have yet to play the demo on my Switch. I really need to get to doing that. The concept of the game seems to be very interesting. However, it is literally characters as classes, and I guess that's how Japan kind of rolls with it on that part. The secondary class you can attach for conflicts. Interesting, but if you're a merchant plus apothecary, what kind of combination of abilities are you going to get out of that? Okay. And as I said, probably the saddest thing about me watching the video and talking to you is I'm not an easily excitable person. So it's not, oh my goodness. By the way, the game is coming out July 13th, 2018. It will have a whole bunch of exclusives in a collector's edition. The collector's edition looks quite nice, actually. They clearly show a book here and the diorama. That is most likely the diorama is inside the book. So they're showing you the diorama and the book. The diorama is the book opened up. And yet again, I set my Switch, my Wii U gamepad down, and it hit these triggers, and it jumped back a few frames. And that's why I had that jump cut earlier. So far, the Nintendo Direct, as I said before, Octopath Traveler is coming out July 13th. The pacing is a little on the slow side. I'm literally end up having to pad conversation on this. We're on to Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. Apparently Travis got stuck in a video game world or a video game system, and he's going around doing all kinds of crazy things. I guess that works out perfectly fine for Travis. He comes from a pretty screwy place. But anyways, it is very stylized. It's very interesting. The enemies are interesting. The bosses are interesting. There's all kinds of... There's a co-op mode, as you can see, as you know. That is a nice touch. Old school graphics. And it's stated to be coming out available this year, which is out on that edge there. I don't play I never played very much in the case of No More Heroes or anything like that, but it's always been interesting. Now we're on to Dark Souls Remastered. They're being very cinematic about it. The whole thing is just all the... a few deaths here and there. It's always nice to have a bit more variety on your Nintendo platform. And there's a network test coming up. That's always nice. That's a good opportunity. Nintendo definitely needs to always push its network, and Solar Star Amiibo. Praise the sun. It is very nice to see quite a bit. There has been just a whole bunch of stuff right there. Uh, they're now talking about you now being able to buy games with your gold coins. That is nice. See, I already watched this once before, so I already kind of took a lot of the excitement factor out of it for me. But as any Nintendo Direct goes, for the most part, it usually gets stronger as it goes along. We now are on to Mario Tennis Aces. And we're just seeing like standard tennis here and there. And then we get into this whole strike zones and speed zone times. Yeah, I know they had to highlight the chain chomp as a tennis player. They also note later on that as you play through the game and various achievements have been acquired, you will then unlock new characters. A part of me says, even though Pauline was not shown, there is a good probability she may in fact be a locked character in Mario Tennis Aces. And I personally think it's a good idea. You know, you want to get Pauline out there. So they're showing off Rosalina now, playing against Toad. Zone shots and did I say zone strike zones earlier? Yeah. It's zone shots. I don't have this thing called a script. I'm just going off the top of my head. The rackets seem to break midway in their body. They don't actually, snap the strings or anything like that, or twist or bend or anything like that. They just snap right off when they break. I don't think tennis rackets tend to snap in half like that. They twist, they get dinged, stuff like that. I'm just like nitpicking it. Watching Mario Tennis Aces. They seem to be working more on to trying to create a system where one ability can match up against another, which matches up against another, that which matches up against another, but keep it overall simple. Trick shots, uh, special shots, speed zones, shot zones, or zone shot. Talking about the stamina bar right now. And the special shot. Now the crazy thing is a block looks a lot like a regular swat, or more, let's rephrase it, a bunt in baseball. I'm not that big into sports or anything like that, so I never played Mario Tennis. I'm mostly focused on playing other types of games and stuff like that. I switch over to a female announcer, and then there's also simple mode with simple rules, no special abilities or anything like that. Online multiplayer. Nintendo seems to be getting more into multiplayer. Uh, let's see. Let's see if I could spot something. Sometimes you can ever so slightly occasionally spot an important detail. And when it comes to the leaderboard, which is there's Boo, and talking about the online again, I backed it up so I can check this again. And let me see. There's Peach, Luigi, Waluigi, Mario, Chain Chomp, Boo, Donkey Kong, Yoshi, Bowser, Toad, Toadette, Rosalina, Luigi again, Daisy, Boo. Let's see here, I can't make that character out on the top row. There's Toadette, Peach, looks to be Bowser, Waluigi, Yoshi. Hard to tell. Maybe Daisy again. I don't see any new characters or anything in it. And as I said right here, additional characters. And you can use the Joy-Cons as a racket, which is like, okay, yeah, that's, yeah, we know about that. Wiimotes also counted for that too. But it's just a nice little add-on. And then a little sizzle reel. And a little story mode talk. Yoshi with wings. Or Dragon Yoshi, in other words. Available 6/22/16. And then there's a tournament. There is quite a bit of stuff coming to the Switch. Weak on the weak side for the 3DS. The current Nintendo Direct format has sort of this slow burn kind of play where it's all long image. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker is being announced here, and that is neat. There's also, as I said before, there's a whole bunch of there's going to be new content here. And it was also theorized as to have a whole bunch of new content. New Donk City stage, neat. All kinds of neat stuff. It's just, there's Pauline in a billboard. And then they remind you, hey, Captain Toad was in Super Mario Odyssey. I know, I found him multiple times. 2-player co-op mode where a buddy can fire on enemies, knock them back or take them out. And then it will also be released on the Nintendo 3DS. So I was kind of right about 6 to 8 games for the Nintendo 3DS. However, many of them are remakes, and Nintendo is pretty much just highlighting a lot of their remakes for the 3DS with only a few new games here and there. People pestering me. Yeah, they are announcing Undertale right now, and that is basically it. on Nintendo Switch coming eventually. Uh, that is nice. And then now they're on to Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, the original game, and the two sequels. I was never into Crash, but I pretty much was just still on Nintendo's side at that time when those first three games came out. I only really got over to the PlayStation systems until PlayStation platforms until right around onto the PS2. The only time I ever picked up a PlayStation controller was really to just play Mega Man X4, 5, 6, and yeah, until the PlayStation 2 came out, in which then case I actually started buying more PS1 games. So there. Little Nightmare announcement. Interesting, I do say the least. Interesting art style, interesting characters, very visual, heavy narrative. So it is. It really says this is the world you live in. Really good perspective of, it's really important to note that Little Nightmare has this art style and the manner in which the scenery is rendered truly creates a true sense of three-dimensional depth in the world. And I could quite say it's actually really nice. The shadow effects are beautiful. By the way, it says it's coming out May 18th. Very interesting. And then they are now announcing South Park Fractured Butthole. There's just all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. South Park is an interesting place. It's kind of like this tiny little town that is inexplicably huge. And you watch from the earliest seasons and it's just tiny, tiny, tiny. And then it turns out that there's an entire mall and there's this and that and it's all over. There's all kinds of stuff in South Park, or at least next South Park just off scene. Like sort of like a phantom South Park in the next neighborhood. By the way, this is coming out April 24th, South Park Fractured Butthole for the Nintendo Switch. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. There's actually a lot of games coming to the Nintendo Switch. Recent releases for other platforms being ported over. Some re-releases from the previous generation coming to the Nintendo Switch, and a whole bunch of new stuff. May 18th is the release date for Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. That is really awesome. Then there's this ARMS announcement. This is for the tournament that's coming up not too long from now. Hold on a second. So they're still talking about the ARMS tournament on March 31st. ARMS Global Test Punch 3-day event will start. That's neat. And then information on the Games Developer Conference. That is interesting. And then here's new updates for Splatoon 2, this is really cool. Version 3.0 is coming late April. Let's just say excited. I keep seeing comments people post all over the place about all kinds of funny, cute stuff about how in a very short moment they're going to announce the Octolings as a playable character, and people are joking that very shortly after that, the Inklings will become an endangered species. So this is actually a fun set of sequences right here. And now they're transitioning into that Octoling update. It's an interesting startup here. It's like it's an underground test facility, but there's all these characters just standing around. And I guess it's them announcing new characters you're going to interact with, to buy your gear from or get more components of the story. But in this case, it's just interesting. The Octo expansion kind of has a 1980s vibe in the logo. And it kind of has that 1980s feel. Splatoon has that 90s vibe, pop culture vibe. And Octo expansion is like 1980s vibe. So I think they're going to come up with another expansion after this, and it's going to be a 1970s vibe, and then a 1960s vibe. So that's a bit of interesting right there. It's kind of like time is traveling backwards from the main game to the expansion. But okay. It's not a good idea to yawn during a reaction video. But anyways, I'm trying to be authentic here. I was really excited the first time. It's a $20 purchase for the Octo expansion, which I will be getting. And you get pre-purchase, you get headgear and clothes, which is neat. Now, I am generally happy all around with what I have seen as far as the Nintendo Switch is concerned. As I said before, the Nintendo 3DS is kind of on the weak side. He'd, but there's still some decent stuff trickled out through the 3DS life. If you are a broad range gamer type person, uh, you could actually say uh, hopscotch from one good. This is a really interesting moment. I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna back out of this. Uh, but I paused it right here. But anyways, uh, there is still enough good games for the Nintendo 3DS, but there is uh, not a lot to be picky about. Okay? Alright? Now, taking a moment, I backed it up just a touch much. And I backed it up. I backed it up twice, which then ended up right there. It's not the YouTube app for the Nintendo Wii U is not terribly easy to operate. But anyways, the section that's coming up next is really interesting. First and foremost, as everyone probably knows, there has been quite a bit of excitement about this announcement right here. This announcement in Nintendo Trolley way, this announcement is echoing the OG announcement of Splatoon. When Nintendo started promoting Splatoon, this is basically the same action sequence they used for the original Splatoon. Now, this is where it changes. This is the moment it changes. And I'm like, and then you look into the Inkling girl's eye and you see this Smash Bros. Symbol burning. It's like, whoa. And then you see Mario and you see Link. But wait a minute. Did you notice something with Link? Seriously, did you notice something with Link? Seriously. If I could, I'm watching this very carefully, see if I can get the sequence. There you see the logo, and as it goes, I see Mario. You see that Link. You see that Link. That is the Breath of Wild Link. That is not Ocarina of Time Link. That is Breath of the Wild Link. Okay? So, right there, this is either another skin for Link, i.e. this is a re-release of Splatoon 4, not Splatoon 4, Super Smash Bros. 4, and they included a skin for Breath of the Wild Link, or they now have Breath of the Wild Link as well in this. See, it is clearly Breath of the Wild Link. And then you see a whole bunch of other characters. See if I can actually land it. Can I make out of any other characters? It's kind of hard to tell. They're all little silhouettes. I clearly can see Bowser and a few sword-wielding Fire Emblem characters. But anyways, I tapped it. I was gonna look, bring it closer. But anyways, interesting. And then the text is more melee in structure. It's less Super Smash Bros. 4. 2018. So sometime late this year, it's co-developed by Nintendo and HAL Laboratory. Interesting to say the least. Now, this video has gone on long enough. Back out of this.